So in a way, when the neshama wants to go up, there isn't personal agenda here. Very subtle, of course. We're talking about yearning for elokus, not for ego, but she wants elokus. But in a shuv, it doesn't matter that she wants elokus. She goes down anyhow. Why? Not because of her nature. Her natural impulse is to go up, but because of her innate bitul and shiflus, selflessness of the essence of the soul, she goes down. Hey, Mar Cheshvan, Tafshin Pei. And we are privileged to learn, to begin a new maimar, and it should be l'schus all those that in captivity to be brought home today, and those who are injured or not well should heal immediately, beguf u'benefesh, and Am Yisrael should have immediate geula. And this maimar of החודש הזה לכם, which is Reish Hey, right, in the new edition, I think, is a classic. And we'll talk about Atzilus, and in connection to our discussion, it's a hemshech, Avodas Hashem, through understanding the world of Atzilus and understanding the different, generally two kinds of neshamos. Neshamos of Atzilus and neshamos of Biyah. And that will help us to understand even more the whole dynamic of Avodas Hashem in the context of Ratzov Vashov and Dira B'Tachtonim. Please mute yourselves, and we are taking off. החודש הזה לכם ראש חודשים, ראשון הוא לכם לחודשי השנה. This chodesh, Chodesh Nisan, for you, the Jewish people, is the head of the month. Rishon hu lachem it is the first for you for the month of the year. וצריך להבין, והלא ראש חודש תשרי הוא ראש השנה, שכולל ראש השנה, ועל שם זה נקרא ראש. וכמו שהראש כולל כללוס חיוס הגוף, כמו כן ראש השנה כולל כללוס חיוס השנה. So we need to understand, isn't Rosh Chodesh Tishrei Rosh Hashanah? That is, we know that Rosh Chodesh Tishrei is called Rosh because it includes, like the Rosh, all the months of the year energetically. And just as the Rosh includes all the chayus of the body, so too Rosh Hashanah, Aleph Tishrei, includes all the chayus of the year. And then ונחלק אחר כך ליוד בייס ראשי חודשים. And then it is divided to 12 heads of months. וכל ראש חודש ללמד יום. And every Rosh Chodesh is I don't know why it says Rosh Chodesh, but I guess every Rosh Chodesh, Take, is now subdivided or expanding to 30 days. So each one is a potential. Rosh Hashanah includes the highest of the whole year, and then it is divided to 12. And then each Rosh Chodesh includes the highest of the whole month, and then it is divided to 30. ונמצא שראש השנה הוא ראש וראשון לכל חודשי השנה. So we find that Rosh Hashanah, Aleph Tishrei, is the head to all the months of the year, because it is the head from which is divided to 12 of Rashi Chodashim. So which is really the head of all the Rosh Chodesh, the 12 Rashi Chodashim? Rosh Hashanah, Aleph Tishrei. But the pasuk החודש הזה לכם ראש חודשים, ראשון הוא לכם לחודשי השנה establishes that ראש חודש ניסן is ראש השנה to the month, לחודשים. So what kind of a meaning is there to this kind of Rosh Hashanah? The Rosh Hashanah of the month, it looks like Aleph Tishrei is Rosh Hashanah of all the 12 חודשים. ולמה נאמר על ראש חודש ניסן שהוא ראש חודשים? Why does it say about ראש חודש ניסן that is the head of the month? So we need to understand what meaning is to ראש חודש ניסן as the head, the first of חודשי כל השנה. It seems that ראש חודש ניסן includes just the energy of חודש ניסן. So what's going on? בקיצור, we have a question about החודש הזה לכם ראש חודשים that establishes that ראש חודש ניסן is the head of the year of the month. לחודשים. So what is the difference? This is the question of this paragraph. What is the difference between Rosh Hashanah of Rosh Chodesh Tishrei and Rosh Hashanah of the head of the Rosh Chodesh Nisan? Now, in order to understand the difference between Rosh Hashanah of Tishrei and Rosh Hashanah of Nisan, we are going to reflect on the words of Baal HaAkedah. Baal HaAkedah, there's a book called Akedah Yitzchak that was written by Baal HaAkedah. We call him Baal HaAkedah because he wrote this book, like we call Samech Tzedek. Samech Tzedek is not Menachem Mendel. So his real name is Rabbi Yitzchak ben Moshe, Erama. It is spelled like Yiddish, but it's not, he is not Yiddish, he's Spanish. Ayin Reish Aleph Mem Hey, Erama. Rabbi Yitzchak ben Moshe, Baal HaAkedah. He lived between 1420 and 1494. That means that he lived in the 15th century. And he was a great scholar and a philosopher and a commentator of the Torah and a Kabbalist. He admired philosophy, the Rambam. He brought, of course, he emphasized the difference between philosophy and the Torah, and you cannot compare, but he was very much looking up to the Rambam as a philosopher, Moreh Nevuchim, and so on. But the Akedah Yitzchak is the sefer, the most famous. He also wrote a sefer Chazuz Kasha and another sefer on the 5 Megillos. But his main known sefer is Akedah Yitzchak, is arranged according to the Parshios of the Torah. In any case, we are going to reflect on the words of Baal HaAkedah that there are two ways to learn to recognize and appreciate the greatness and the infinite, if I can say, the infinite greatness of God. One is through reflecting on the constancy, how do you say constancy? On the Tmidius, the ongoing constancy and the eternity of Anhagas HaTeva. We see that the first way is to reflect on nature, to reflect on the world, to reflect on nature, and see eternity and infinity in nature. We will explain. And the other one is reflecting on Nisim, reflecting on phenomena that are about breaking nature and transcending nature, like Yetzias Mitzrayim, Kriyas Yamsuf. So let's look inside. והנה בעקדה כתב דעל בייס אופנים יכולים אנו לידע גדולת הבורא. In the Akedah he wrote, Rabbi Yitzchak ben Moshe wrote about two manners through which we can get to know the greatness of the Creator. האחד מהנהגת הטבע, יכולים אנו להכיר גדולת הבורא. The first meditation is to reflect on הנהגת הטבע, on the conduct of nature. We can see from that the greatness of the Creator. מהנהג התמידי שמתנהג תמיד באופן אחד, בלי שינוי ובלי הפסק. The constant הנהגה, the laws of nature that are operating constantly without any change and without any stop. בזה ניכר כוח האינסוף. That's one way in which the power of infinity is apparent. So the first possibility to recognize the greatness of the Creator and the Creator being unlimited and infinite is through his boinenus b'anhagas hateva. And even though teva is a finite power, so to speak, is a power of finiteness, power of gvul, that conceals godliness, nevertheless, teva itself, the way it operates, reveals godliness as well. Which means that in addition to the fact that through reflecting upon nature, you come to the conclusion that yesh manhig lebira zu, as Chazal say, that there is a leader to this city. That means when you reflect on the world, on nature, and see how everything operates in such a perfect way, you realize that there must be an intentful Creator here, and that the world is run by Hashem. But also, when we reflect on the laws of nature that are constant and unchanging, we come to the conclusion that this leader of the Bira, this Creator, is unlimited and infinite. So we find that be'etzem, the laws of nature themselves are a testimony for the unlimited and infinite koyach of Hashem, power of God. And the Rebbe explains, וכמו השמש והירח והכוכבים וכל הגלגלים, like the sun and the moon and the stars and all the circular orbits, the celestial orbits, בסיבובם התמידי, when they are constantly going round and around, שמסבבים תמיד ממזרח למערב, that they all circulate daily from east to west, ואינם משנים את תפקידם, and they do not change their chore, ובלי הפסק, and they never stop. When you think about it, the מצד עצמן, that them of themselves, these are finite creations. These are physical creations. מאחר שהן בעלי גבול, since all these creations, the sun, the moon, the stars, the orbits, they are all בעלי גבול, they are all finite. היה צריך להיות הפסק לסיבובם. There should be a hefsek to their orbit and to their circulation. וכמו כן היה צריך להיות בהם שינוי. I'm translating and then explaining. And also, there should be some kind of a change. Every natural finite being is subjected to changes and subjected to dysfunctions and basically diminishes in its power. This is the law of nature. But those creations do not change, and the energy doesn't change. וכל בעל גבול הרי הוא משתנה. We know that anything that is בעל גבול is finite, changes. But you look at the sun, the moon, the stars, they function and they shine and the energy the same like the day they were created. This is unlike finite creations. ואם כן, and if this is the case, ניכר בזה כוח האינסוף. In this itself, you can recognize the power of Ein Sof. וכמו שכתוב מזה במקום אחר באורך, as is written at length in elsewhere. So the Rebbe gives an example. The Rebbe will give two examples. One is Beish, one is the Min. That we see that nature, even though it's all about Gvul, and the rule about Gvul is that it's subjected to changes and it diminishes until it dies. And it stops and it starts and it has its ups and downs. That's the nature of Gvul. But the celestial bodies, Beish, that means each individual one maintains its constancy without any change in a perfect way and doesn't diminish in its energy. This is a phenomena that is unnatural. And you can recognize it in nature, that in nature this Koach Ein Sof, the power of infinity. Then the Rebbe will give the example of species. But because on earth, this is about the Shamayim. On earth, this constancy is not apparent in Beish, but Bemin. Because when it comes to the individual Beish, people die, animals die, plants die, but the species remain. And that's how you see the eternity here. There are some species that got exterminated, but that was due to men. Men destroyed them, but in potentially they could exist forever. So that's what it is here. That we see that Beish, all the celestial bodies are operating constantly without any change. And that's what the Baal HaKedah brings an example from the sun, the moon, the Kochavim, and the Galgalim, that are constant and they don't change from the day they were created. And they don't diminish, and they don't stop. And that's the proof that the Koach Ein Sof that is invested in them. So too, וכמו כן, בכללוס הנבראים. And so too regarding all Nivraim. Yes, the celestial Nivraim are expressing their infinity Beish, individually. But בכללוס הנבראים, בצבא השמיים וצבא הארץ, if you want to include also the creations of the earth, שהן קיימים במין ובאיש, that are existing במין, in species or באיש, depends if it's on the aretz or on the shamayim, ניכר בזה כוח האין סוף חולו, וכמו שכתוב במקום אחר. So this constancy that we are witnessing regarding tzva shamayim, regarding the celestial bodies, like the sun and the moon and the stars and the orbits, really exists in all nivraim. But in the aretz is that they exist bemin, in species. They maintain their eternity. And this is really contradictory to law of nature, that anything which is finite loses its energy. Kol davar hove nifsad. That's the Kabbalistic expression, the spiritual expression. Kol davar hove nifsad. Anything that exists, the way we know yesh me'ayin is nifsad, loses its vitality. So here we see that through the limitations of Teva itself, we can see the power of infinity of godliness. Koach HaEin Sof that Hashem invested in Teva. Then Baal HaKedah brings the second way to recognize the greatness of Hashem, והבייס הוא מההנהגה שלמעלה מהטבע. When we are witnessing all kinds of phenomena which are higher than nature, וכמו בנס יציאת מצרים וקריעת ים סוף וחי גבנה. Like the miracle of Yetzias, Exodus of Mitzrayim, of Egypt, and the split of the Red Sea, and the likes. שהוא עניין שידוד המערכות וביטול הטבע. That is about shidud, the destruction of the systems of, and the annulment of the systems of nature. Teva destroys nature. Nes, phenomena למעלה מן הטבע, miracles, are an annulment and the, how shall I say, either going beyond, or here the Rebbe chooses to use expressions of shidud HaMarachos. I don't know how to translate exactly shidud. If anybody, if Turner, you know shidud. Leshaded means to kind of destroy, to crush, to destroy, to disassemble, to pull, to take apart, like yeah.
To break.
To break. So in Nes is breaking and annulling the systems of nature. בזה ניכר גדלוס הבורא עוד ביותר מבהנהגת הטבע. In this you can see the greatness of the Creator even more than through nature itself. So the second possibility to recognize the Gadlus HaBoreh is through Hanhaga Nisis, the miraculous conduct of the Creator that is higher than nature, that breaks the systems of nature like Yamsuf, Yetzias Mitzrayim, that were completely supernatural, in which you can see Begilui, the infinite power of God, and when it comes up in his wish to do something, nothing can stand in his way, and water can stand like a wall. Here, the greatness and unlimited power of the Creator is even more apparent and more tangible. We will see that to these two ways of getting to know the greatness of Hashem, which means the Anhaga Sateva and the Anhaga which is Lemala Min HaTeva, each one has its own source. We will learn that one comes from the Kav, from this Memale or Memale. We'll learn, Mirz Hashem. And the other comes from Oros Revev. I'm using here the help of Rabbi Gopin, Reb Shneur Zalman Gopin's book on Samech Vov. And he brings here to just our attention that the term Teva, as we already, I'm sure some of you know, usually represents two perushim, two meanings. One meaning of the word Teva is like something which is about Seder, like something which is coined, like matbea, or כל המשנה ממטבע שטבעו חכמים. The Chachamim established a certain way and don't change from that way that they established, they coined, they established. So that's Teva. Teva means order and Seder, order that repeats itself, order that is coined in creation. That's one meaning of the word Teva. It's order that repeats itself. The other meaning of Teva is Mileshon Tub'u Bayam, to drown. The Teva covers up. Nature conceals the Elokus, like water surrounds that which is drowned in it. So the Nes, which is higher than Teva, explains Rabbi Gopin, annuls Teva in its two meanings, which means when you have a nes, a miracle, two things are happening. One is that Hashem is changing the normal Seder order of nature and the normal laws, and reveals Elokus. But then there is another type of nes, the nes that is melubash in teva. There's an open nes and there's a hidden nes. The hidden nes is a nes is melubash beteva. So in that case, it will not mevatel, it will not annul the laws of teva, which is the first meaning of the word teva. It only annuls the helem, the second meaning of the word teva, litboa, to rhyme, means concealing. It only annuls the concealment and it affects Gilui Elokus. And the reason for these two types of miracles is because of, eventually, as what we said, that there are two sources, different sources to teva, and the order of nature versus miracle and supernatural. Because the nes, the supernatural, comes from Shem Havaya, and the teva, the anhagas teva, and the order of teva comes from Shem Elokim. And in Mirz Hashem we will learn more about it, but there is two nisim, two types of nisim as just mentioned. One is open nes, and one is a nes that is melubash beteva, like Megillas Esther. When the nes is melubash beteva, that means is Gilui Shem Havaya through the name of Elokim. The way Hashem Havaya is included in Shem Elokim. Anyhow, bottom line of what we learned so far is that the Rebbe Rasha brought the words of the Baal HaKedah that points out two ways to reflect and to recognize Gdulas Hashem and His infinite power. One is the constancy and the eternity of Teva, the fact that Tzva Shamayim carry out their duty constantly for thousands of years without stopping, and Tzva Haaretz on the earth is continuing to exist constantly in its species, and that is a testimony for the unlimited power of HaKadosh Baruch Hu, who is constantly leading the world. And this koyach never diminishes. The second way to recognize the greatness of Hashem is nisim that HaKadosh Baruch Hu shows from time to time, miracles that from time to time we witness. These are nisim shelemala min hateva, and there are also nisim that are melubash in teva, that are invested in teva. And even really in Hashgacha Pratis, daily Hashgacha Pratis, if you pay attention, you will see the nisim that are melubash in teva too. And therefore, through them, you can sense the presence of the unlimited power of Hashem in our daily reality, in our daily metzius. Now, Rabbi Goffin is giving an akdama that brings us back to the context of our discussion of Ratzo, Vashov, and which is higher, right? And the avodah of the neshama in the manner of Ratzo, and the avodah of neshama in the manner of Shuv. So let's bring this discussion into the context of the Hemshech Samech Vov. And basically what he's saying here, that in the Hemshech HaMaimarim that we have been Baruch Hashem learning, and now we are on page, in the new edition 205, we have been learning Baruch Hashem a lot, and there's much more to do and to cover. But this is the Hemshech of Yom Tov Shel Rosh Hashanah, Tafrei Samech Vav. It is the Rebbe Rashab discusses the purpose and goal of creation. La'asos lo yizbarach dira b'tachtonim. And this dira, this home for God in the lowest realm of creation, is established through three kinds of Hamshacha and Gilui Eloki to the world. We are bringing down, through Avodas Hashem, three kinds of divine light, energy, flow. One is Or HaKav, the light of the Kav. The other one, that we draw from the light of the Kav, which is really associated with Memale Kol Almin. The other one is Or HaSovev Kol Almin. And that's the second. And the third is Atzmuso Shel HaKadosh Baruch Hu. We are not only bringing in the ability of Hashem to relate to worlds in a pnimius way or in a makif way, we even bring us the light from God himself, not in relation to worlds. And when these three kinds of divine lights, when they are misgale, when they are revealed in the world, now the goal of Dira B'Tachtonim is accomplished. Because these are really three stages. First Memale, then Sovev, then Atzmus. And when you get to Mamshich Atzmus, then you create Dira B'Tachtonim. Why? With just as human Dira, a person Dar B'Atzmuso, as we learn many times, that when in his home the person himself is present, not any roles that he is playing, but he himself is dwelling. So too, Dira B'Tachtonim means that the Atzmus of Hashem is now shochen and dwelling and revealed in this world. Now in this Hemshech, the Gilui of the Atzmuso Shel HaKadosh Baruch Hu, the Gilui of the essence of God, is called Eden, right? And all the Neshamus, as we learned, the Pasuk, Ein Lo Rata Eden, Elokim Zulascha, Ya'aseh Lamecha Kelo. So it's called Eden. The Gilui from Atzmus of Elokus is called Eden. And all the Neshamas that are dwelling for thousands of years in Gan Eden, in the Garden of Eden, beginning from Adam Arishon, from Adam, and the Avos, the Tzaddikim, throughout all generations, and they keep transcending from level to level, Be'ein Aroch, incomparably, from level to level to level to level, constantly. Nevertheless, even though these souls are present in Gan Eden for thousands of years, and they keep going higher and higher and higher, as we learn at the beginning of the Hemshech, and we learn about the different ascending, different aliyos, Be'ein Aroch, remember that? Ad velo ad bichlal, ad ve'ad bichlal, ad velo ad bichlal, beginning of the Hemshech. Nevertheless, they are all on the level of Gan Eden, not Eden itself. Meaning, they only experience her aura, only a radiance from Eden. But Eden itself will shine only in the future to come, in the Geula. So why do we need to know that? You with us, Tone? Why do we need to know that? Why do we need to know that? We need to know that because the possibility to mamshich, to bring down the aspect of Eden, not the Garden of Eden, but Eden itself, Eden, that means Atzmuso Shel HaKadosh Baruch Hu, God himself, is through Avodas Hashem. And we learned that it comes through Avodas Hashem, Ya'aseh Lamecha Kelo. And we learned that there are two types of Avodas Hashem that is done in a manner of Yegia. of toil, of labor. And this is the perush of the Zohar that we learn to this pasuk, Ein lo ra'asa Elokim zulasecha, no eye had seen Eden except you, Elokim. And Elokim here means, Elokim, by the way, usually Elokim is used to points to lower than Havaya. But there is a name of Elokim that is, this is the Choshech Atzmi, is the essence of godliness. It's also called Elokim, because it's Choshech, Yashes Choshech Sisro. There is no Gilui at all. It's all dark. But Ein lo ra'asa Elokim zulasecha, no eye had seen Eden, except for you, Elokim, you God, yourself. But who can get access to this Eden, to this Atzmus of essence of God? Ya'aseh lamechake lo. He will make it available to those that are anticipating him. What does it mean, mechake lo? Says the Zohar, leman de daik b'milen de chochmesa. That means the one that is really toiling, diving in and toiling and working and digging and expounding and exploring and analyzing the words of Torah on all levels. And the same regarding mitzvahs. When we do mitzvahs, biyagia and Kabbalah's all, then a person is zoche to reach divine levels and divine revelations that no eye had seen before. And even the greatest Nevi'im, the Rebbe says, did not prophesy about that which our avodas Hashem can bring down. They didn't reach that level of Atzmus Hashem. So this idea that expresses the Maila of Amal ve'yegi'ah, of toil and labor, it runs through Samech Vov, through the Hemshech, is called Avoida bechoach atzmo. Avoida with one own power. Your own toil. That's what God wants to see. That you are toiling in Torah, that you are toiling in mitzvahs. And then you get him himself, eventually. It's a gradual growth, but that's what makes it eventually happen. So now we are, the Rebbe will continue in the context of our discussion to explain the Maila of Avoida bechoach atzmo, of the Avoida with one own's power. And that is in connection to our discussion about the Maila of Shuv. That this is really with the person's own power. And we will see that the Ratzo is part of the Teva of the Nefesh, of the soul. It's the nature of the soul to go on, to go up. But it's not the Teva of the nature to go down. And therefore, when the Teva of soul to go down, soul wants to go up. And if soul goes down, it doesn't come from its Teva, it comes from its essence. We will learn about that. Now let's look inside. Any comments so far? And that will lead us to see Bechlal the two kinds of neshamas. Neshamas that are called banim, children of God, and the neshamas that are called avadim, the servants of God. Neshamas of Atzilus and neshamas of Biyah. But in addition to seeing the greatness of the neshamas of Atzilus and their avoida, we will also recognize the greatness of neshamas of Biyah that do avoida in a manner of yegia and toil. All right. Ulahavin shoresh inyan beis hanagos hanal. Now to understand the shoresh, the spiritual root of these two kinds of conducts, the way God conducts the world, in a natural conduct or a miraculous conduct. So from where are they coming? There are two manners the way God manages the world, through Teva and through Nisim, through nature and through miracles. To understand the root of these two divine conducts, צריך להקדים מה שנסבאר לאל, דנר הווי נשמס אדם. We need to first bring what was already explained in the previous Maimarim, דנר השם נשמס אדם, that the neshama of man, the soul of man, is like the candle of Hashem. וכמו הנר שעולה ויורד תמיד, and the behavior of the soul is like the behavior of the flame of a candle that goes up and down all the time. כמו כן הנשמה היא תמיד בבחינת רצו ושוב. So too the neshama is always in a manner of back and forth, up and down, up and down. So to understand the makor, the source of these two anhagos of the world, we need to understand the similarity between a neshama and a candle. We learn it in the Maimar Ner Chanukah. Ner Hashem Nishmas Adam. And just as the flame of the candle is not peaceful and it's not static, rather it goes up and down, so too the neshama is always in a tnuah of ratzo, which means the yearning of the nefesh and its desire to ascend or to be included and subsumed in elokus, in godliness, and the tnuah, the motion of yetzias hanefesh min haguf, the wish of the, how shall I say, the exiting of the soul from the body, the wish of the soul to be freed from the body. And then there is the shuv. It's the opposite motion of yeridas haneshama to be invested in the body and to serve Hashem lemata in this world with physical body and physical objects. So as we have been learning, the avoida in a manner of Ratzov Vashov is a great foundation, Yesod Gadol, in avodas Hashem. As it's explained in Hasidus, Rabbi Gopini brings it, reminds us of how Hasidus explains the pasuk Zot Chukas HaTorah, that about the mitzvah of Para Aduma, of the red heifer. The Torah says Zos Chukas HaTorah. Instead of saying Zos Chukas HaPara, this is the law of the red cow, it says Zos Chukas HaTorah when it explains the law of making the ashes from the red cow. And the question is, why not Zot Chukas HaPara? And the Hasidic explanation, in short, is that the mitzvah of Para Aduma represents Avodas Hashem, really, represents the entire union of Torah and mitzvahs. Because in the mitzvah of preparing the red cow, one mixes, the Kohanim are mixing the efer, the ashes from the cow that is created from fire, by burning the cow from Eish, together with Maim Chaim, mixing that ashes from the fire with living waters from a Maayan. And this hints to Klalos HaTorah, to the entire Torah, because Eish and Maim, fire and water, represents Ratzov Vashov. Fire represents Ratzor, going up, and water represents Shuv, going down. Because the nature of fire is to ascend, and the nature of water is to descend. And the reason why Ratzor Vashov Zois Chukas HaTorah are really the Klalos HaTorah, the entire Torah, because these two motions bring a Yid to fulfill Torah and mitzvahs. How so? Really, one nurtures the other. It's like a wheel that keeps going, that feeds itself. The Ratzov Vashov are not just two opposite powers that one contradicts each other. One feeds each other. Yes, externally they are contradictory. So how is the dynamic? The dynamic is like this. At first, the neshama has a teva, has a nature of ratzoi. It wants to go up. It feels that kirbas elokim li tov. It's good to be close to God. And mimele, automatically, naturally, the soul has a desire and a yearning to exit the body and to come closer to God. But dafka, when the soul, the closer it gets to God, she understands that lo letov bra'a ela shevesh yitzara, that Hashem didn't create the world in order to expire and to be subsumed and disappear back into the ultimate oneness, Yachid. Rather, the will of God is that the neshama should go down and will serve Hashem and fulfill Torah and mitzvahs, shuv, dir betachtonim. And therefore, as the neshama goes up, the closer it gets to God, the more it feels that he wants dir betachtonim. He wants dir betachtonim. She goes back down. And when she goes back down and she feels the lowliness, the coarseness, the chumrius of this world, and the detachment, the threat to detach her, to separate her from her home, from God, immediately she is awakened again with a strong desire and urge to come close to God, eratzoi. So what does it mean? The dafka the ratzo, which is going up, is the reason for the shuv. And dafka, yiridas neshama lemata. And on the other hand, dafka the shuv, when neshama goes lemata, down, is the cause and the reason why the neshama now is yearning, oh, come on, let me go back home, I want to go back up. So this is the constant avoida of the neshama that causes her to do Torah and mitzvahs. And therefore it is klalus haTorah. This is the dynamic of the neshama in this world. Ratzov vashov, that represents the dynamic between the soul, the way she is in between the will of God and this world. And she is in between, wants to go to God and then goes back to the world because of God's will. And that's the Ratzov vashov, that one feeds the other. So we know now that the neshama operates like a candle, Ratzov vashov, right, up and down. Look inside, when it's ba'er, and it was explained in the previous maamar, sheyesh al ze his'orus melamayla. We learned already about it, that for this there is awakening from above every morning. Remember, Lavan ha'elyon? Every morning there is an awakening from above. שמעוררים את האדם להיות בבחינת רצון ושוב. That start the whole dynamic, and they awaken the man from his sleep to start the dynamic of רצון ושוב. Yes, as we have learned, there is an awakening. The alarm clock goes off, or goes on, whatever you call it. However, אמנם עיקר הרצון ושוב הוא בכוח עצמוי והגיעסוי דווקא. The alarm clock is not responsible for everything I'm going to do after I wake up. I'm responsible for that. And therefore, the main ratzon vashov throughout the day of a Yid, doing Torah and mitzvahs, is bekoyach atzmo, with his own power, with his own toil, with his own labor. And we have to toil to create, to come to the point that we should have ava and shuka te'elokus, that we should have a ratzoi, and we have to have toil and labor and kabbalas all to go down and to serve and to create a shuv. Now you could ask a question. That's a small question in a way. You could ask, okay, I understand why you have to have yagia to go down, but why do you have to have yagia and toil to go up? You said yourself, it's the nature of the soul, like a candle, like fire. It wants to go up. So what is about yagia here? That's the nature of the soul. Ner Hashem nishmas Adam, and just that the candle wants to go up, so the neshama from her nature is drawn to Elokus. Tanya chapter Yutes. Look inside. So what does it mean בכוח עצמו ובגיאסו דווקא? שמסייגע להיות בבחינס אהבה ותשוקה לאלוקוס. That one has to toil and to work and to labor to be in a condition and in a position of love and desire for godliness. וגם האהבה רבה, and even Ava that we discussed, Ava Rabba, great love that even transcends world. באה דווקא על ידי הטרחה והגיעה, even though it's not comparable to the labor and the effort, but it follows labor and effort. There's a prerequisite, as we learn, that in order to get to Ava Rabba, even though Ava Rabba is שלא בערך, incomparable, in terms of the divine revelation, to the effort that the human being can invest, nevertheless, the effort is required. דווקא על ידי הטרחה והגיעה, דווקא through toil and labor, בעבודה פנימיוס, with an internal personal work, במוח ולב, with your mind and with your heart, with your mind, with your intellect and with your midos. ותיקון הנפש הבהמיס, as we have learned, and to work on refining and rectifying the animalistic soul and the ego. So why is it that we have to do yegia to be in a manner of ratzoi? Because the neshama down here is in a goof. The neshama is covered up and invested in a body and in a nefesh bahamis that cover up over her. And mimele, even the ratzo of the neshama, which is her nature, is covered up. It's covered up by the corporeality, how do you call it? Corporeality of the goof, of the body. And the neshama is covered up. And for that, because of that, because the neshama, yes, by nature she wants to be home with her tati, with her Avinu Shebashamayim and her king and her father. And maybe Lamala even more father than king from some aspects. So she wants to go back home, but here she is in the body. It covers up over this yearning. What a person feels is his animalistic soul and his body. That's his language. That's his self. That's his feeling of self most of the time. And therefore, there is a need for toil and labor to reveal the neshama and to reveal the fact that the neshama itself has a yearning and a love to God. By uncovering this yearning and removing the cover-up of the body and the ego. So we need, first of all, even yegia even to go up for the ratzo. V'hashuv, says the Rebbe, but to go down and back to the world, hu gam ken, shuv means going back to feeling a yesh, to being somebody. V'hashuv hu gam ken versus אינו מלבדוי. והשוב הוא גם כן בכוח עצמו, ועוד יותר מהרצוי. And the shuv is also through yegia, that's for sure, because it's anti the nature of the soul to want to go up. And shuv means you have to leave that behind and be engaged in the below, be engaged in the world. So the shuv is bekoach atzmo, one has to go against his nature, and even more than ratzoi. And why is it more than ratzoi? We learned about it already, and I just mentioned it before, is ki amitis hashuv hu mitzad etzem haneshama. The truth of the shuv, why a yid keeps staying in a body and serves God day in, day out, is not, it transcends the nature of the neshama. The nature of teva of the neshama is to go up. But when the neshama stays in the body and does the shuv, it's not from the nature of the neshama, it's from the essence of the neshama. And the essence of the neshama, says the Rebbe, that's mitzad habitul v'shiflus. So in a way, when the neshama wants to go up, there isn't personal agenda here. Very subtle, of course. We're talking about yearning for elokus, not for ego. But she wants elokus. But in a shuv, it doesn't matter that she wants elokus. She goes down anyhow. Why? Not because of her nature. Her natural impulse is to go up. But because of her innate bitul and shiflus, selflessness of the essence of the soul, she goes down. She aligns herself with the desire of God. ומצד הקבלת עול מלכות שמיים שבו. It's because the taking on the yoke of the kingship of heaven upon oneself, the authority of Shamayim, within oneself, קבלת עול. דמשום זה הוא בבחינת שוב חולו. It is not because of an impulse of the nature of the godly soul. It's because the submission and the alignment and the selflessness that allows the essence of the soul to be a channel for God's desire. וקבלת עול מלכות שמיים היא בכוח עצמו והגיעתו כמו שנסביר לאל. And קבלת עול מלכות שמיים, which is associated with shuv, is בכוח עצמו, is with one's own power and labor and effort, as was explained before. I want to conclude with a comment that he brings here, Rabbi Gopin, about the Ratzov Vashov. And he says that in the first chapter of this Maimar, we are talking about Avodah of Ratzov Vashov and emphasizing the difference between Ratzov and Shuv. The Ratzov comes from, as we said, from the nature, from the teva of the neshama, from the makeup of the neshama. And the Shuv is mitzad etzem neshama, from the essence of the soul. And since the teva of the neshama, the nature of the soul, is a davar nosaf al etzem neshama, we have two things here. We have etzem neshama, and we have the teva of the neshama. The teva of the neshama is an additional thing to etzem neshama. Allow me, give me a few minutes, 2-3 minutes, Imir Hashem, 5 minutes. But let's get deep for a moment. Just concentrate. So the teva of the neshama is davar nosaf, is an additional thing to the etzem neshama, to the essence of the soul. So when the neshama is in a tnua, in the motion of ratzoi, it's not etzem neshama. It's only when the neshama does the opposite of its nature, of her nature, that is etzem neshama. And when the etzem of the neshama, the essence of the soul is revealed, then the soul can conduct herself opposite its nature. The difference between the tnua of Ratzor and the tnua of Shuv, we can learn from the story about the 4 Tanaim. The Chazal tell us about the 4 Tanaim that nichnesu lapardes. Ben Azai, Ben Zoma, Acher, which was Reb Meir, and Rabbi Akiva. These four great Tanaim entered the Pardes to learn and to grasp the secrets of Torah. The Pardes means the orchard of the secrets of Torah, the mystics of Torah. And the results were very harsh. Ben Azai Hetzitz Vameis, Ben Azai passed away. He peaked and he died right away. Ben Zoma Hetzitz Venifga. Ben Zoma peeked into this orchard of the secrets of the Torah and got hurt right away, lost his mind, became insane. Nitrefa da'ato. His mind, his das got all mixed up. Acher kitzes benetios. Acher spoke against God, of the derech, as they call these days. And רק רבי עקיבא נכנס בשלום ויצא בשלום. Only Rabbi Akiva entered בשלום and exited בשלום. לכאורה, Hasidus teaches us why we emphasize that Rabbi Akiva נכנס, entered בשלום. Didn't all others Tanaim נכנסו בשלום? Everybody נכנס בשלום. Everybody was in peace when he entered. The question how they came out. The damage was the mal results were only when they were coming out. But this itself is the reason, says Hasidus. The reason why only Rabbi Akiva יצא בשלום, came out בשלום safely, is because משום שנכנס בשלום. Unlike the rest of the Tanaim, they did not enter the Pardes b'Shalom. And the explanation is as follows. The other three Tanaim had a yearning, tshuka gdoila le'elokus, had a burning yearning a tremendous yearning for godliness, ratzoi. And that's why they entered the Pardes. But since their ratzoi that was the only agenda, it was lelo shuv, without a shuv, they got damaged. Only Rabbi Akiva had sai ratzo and sai shuv. That means that at the same time that Rabbi Akiva was in a motion of ratzoi, of desire to elokus, he remained in a motion of shuv. He knew that the purpose of his ratzoi is for the shuv. He never lost that perspective. They did. They completely lost themselves in the ratzoi, just because they couldn't hold themselves from getting closer and closer to Elokus. But he knew that it's all about shuv. And with this sense, he entered the Pardes. And that's why he's Yatsa B'Shalom. Why, in truth, Rabbi Akiva had Ratzo v'Shuv, and the rest of the Tanaim had a Ratzo without Shuv? Explains Rabbi Gopin, Hasidus, because Haratzo that the rest of the Tanaim had was because of the Teva of their Neshama that drew them to Elokus, until they reached Klosa Nefesh. So they were operating from the Teva, from the nature of their Neshama, not from the essence, from the nature of the Neshama, and they followed the Tnuas Haratzo, until they reached Klosa Nefesh, they expired. And בסופו של דבר, they got damaged one way or another. This one passed away completely, this one lost his sanity, and this one lost his Yiddishkeit. But Rabbi Akiva, by him, not only the Teva of the Neshama, which is secondary, shined when he was entering the Pardes. When he was entering the Pardes, his Etzem Neshama was revealed.
Hannah?
1 second, please. 1 second, please. Within the Teva of the Neshama. So within the Teva of Rabbi Akiva, illuminated that was the essence of the Neshama, and it was the essence of the Neshama of Rabbi Akiva that caused him, that his Ratzo should not be only because of his teva of the nefesh, of the neshama, but will be because of the will of God, that the neshama will cleave to Elokus in order to be able to carry out the shuv. And since Rabbi Akiva nichnas b'shalom, and that means that when Rabbi Akiva, it wasn't an easy test. These were great Tanaim to enter these pardes without completely losing the shuv. It was so drawing. It's such a strong magnet. And the teva of the neshama could easily take over. But when Rabbi Akiva sensed that he is getting closer to expiration, to a ratzo without shuv, that he is going to lose himself, close nefesh, he knew that it is the will of God that he should go back, that he should have a shuv. And this knowing of the goal that came from the etzem nefesh gave him the strength to leave the tnuah of ratzoi and to go to the opposite direction of shuv. And this is what it means. It means nichnas b'shalom. The kavana elyona that shines in etzem neshama shined by him within the teva of the neshama, which was not the case with the rest of the Tanaim. They did not nichnas b'shalom. They did not enter b'shalom. Their entry was not because of the pnimius of the teva, because of etzem nefesh, which is really the Hashem's desire. Rather, it was from their teva of the nefesh, only ratzo. And mimele, their coming out of the pardes wasn't b'shalom either. In other words, regarding the tnuah of shuv, everybody agrees that it is done in order to do the will of God. Everybody agrees. But in tnuah of ratzo, there is a little what is called negi'ah ishit. There could be a personal agenda here. And this is the reason why, explains Rabbi Gopin, that even tzaddikim gmurim have nisyonos, have all kinds of tests in avodas Hashem. Lich'ora, what's their problem? They don't have Yetzer hara. And all their desire is to do the will of God. They say tzaddik gamur. What ma'amatz, what labor, what yegiah is demanded of them. But the tzaddik also has the teva to come close to nature, to come close to Elokus. And they have to also make sure that they are doing the opposite of their nature, and they are operating not from their nature, but from their essence, and could go lemata shuv, and there are nisyonos in that. Because going lemala for a tzaddik is not a small thing. Which means that this type, I'm coming to you, Tzipi, I'm finishing, that this type of avodah of a tzaddik is even harder than a normal person like us, that we are not tzaddikim gmurim, and therefore we are required to just break the teva of the nefesh habahamis, so we can feel the teva of the nefesh haelokis. We just want to reach the teva of the neshama, the true teva nature of the neshama, by subduing and transforming the nefesh habahamis in the guf. But that's easier. Why? Even though for us we feel it's very hard. But that is easier. Why? Because everybody knows and acknowledges, when you think a little bit, everybody, that the nefesh habahamis and its taivos and all the taivos of the body, all the lusts and the addictions and the desires, the physical desires, and including the ego desires of kavod and yeshus, all these are empty, transitory things. They are dvarim cholfim. They are things that pass and don't have a lasting kiyum. And with a little bit thought about it, one can understand that it's not a good investment. And it's really, with a little bit of thinking, it becomes easier to break it and to overcome it, to break the nature of the animalistic soul, of the ego. But when you are talking about breaking the teva of the nefesh ha'elokis, breaking the nature of the godly soul, and making it come down, unlike its nature, this is avodah kasha ma'od. And tzaddikim are struggling with this avodah. So we shouldn't underestimate the avodah of a tzaddik, even though he doesn't have a yetzer hara. When you do the ratzon, she understands the shuv, you have to kabbalas all, you need esem hanefesh to help you to do it constantly. Blah, blah, blah. What about the ratzon? It's not that you shouldn't have ratzon. You should have ratzon b'shov, right? How do you know that when you do the ratzon, it's not just from the teva of the nefesh, it's also from esem hanefesh? How can you tell? You are saying the way to know it is you are willing to do the shuv after. If you are willing to do the shuv after, that means your ratzon was right, was from the essence, kabbalas or bitul to Hashem. Okay, but the question that he asked is why do we say nichnas b'shalom? This is how you know you can say it's yatsa b'shalom when you can do the shuv. But what is about the nichnas b'shalom? Meaning you need to look at the ratzon. Not only that after the ratzon there will be a proper shuv. It means that you need to examine the ratzon itself. That when you are in a mode, when I am talking to myself, when I am in a mode of ratzon, with one way or another, I get to be inspired by Elokus, whether it is anything. I heard something, or read something, or I learned something, or I got touched by someone, whatever it is. I am in a mode of a ratzon. So I need to examine this ratzon itself, that I need to be like Rabbi Akiva. That my ratzon, I shouldn't lose myself in this ratzon. Not only to the extent of losing my sanity, of course, but and that could be when the tshuka is so intense, when the desire is so intense. But I need to check my desire all the time. The desire should be permeated with the awareness that my ratzon needs to be wholesome, needs to be with the context of shov in it. That the quality of the ratzon should not be an external ratzon that comes just from my teva. I need to examine the ratzon while I'm in a ratzon. That it's not just I'm giving into my spiritual addiction, so to speak. It doesn't call it my spiritual nature. I'm still intentful. I'm still choosing this ratzon because I'm in the context of me being aligned with God's will. And so far I know that God's will is to shuv, and therefore my ratzon is in this context. And I'm not going ratzon without, it always has the boundaries of the shuv, the channel of the shuv. It's not just a wild ratzon that is in order to quench my thirst.